Joining us today is the CEO of Plaxo, Justin Miller, and the VP of Marketing, John McCrae. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
For the last several years, you've been trying to create the definitive email smart address book online. Why has that been so difficult?
John, why don't you start?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it, when we got started, actually before either of us were in the company, 2002, there were really a different set of tools that people were using. And the problem of a unified smart address book was interoperability with Outlook and maybe one or two other things. In this new era of social networks and the social web, the number of different places where contact information is being stored or accessed is growing exponentially. And so the problem is actually getting harder, not easier, and it's fundamentally a problem of interoperability.
A lot of people store their contact information in Outlook. You see a lot in Facebook, you see some in LinkedIn. We've talked to a lot of people, they keep it in paper, they keep it in Rolodex. And online, it's just spread all over. And as John was saying, that's part of the problem. It would be great if there was a tool that would go and look for you and say, you're looking for John's address, it's over here, it's over here, it's over here. This one looks like the most recent, looks like the most correct.
Plaxo has been able to organize a lot of information from about 30 applications or so on the web, right? What are your shortcomings today, and why do you think you haven't managed to become that definitive smart address book yet?
I think when you look back over the history of Plaxo, starting in 2002, there was a great idea, which is if everyone would put their information, their contact information on Plaxo, and they got their friends to do it, when anyone updated their information, all of our information would be updated, and that's great. The problem is not everyone joined Plaxo, and not everyone keeps their information up to date. And so what we're able to do, and what we're working on doing now, is looking at how we can pull information from everywhere around the web, pull that together for you. But what's taken so long is over that time, we've started looking at different opportunities. So a couple years ago, Plaxo started getting more and more into social networking. It was this great space. And then more recently, we started looking at business networking, another great space. But Facebook and LinkedIn are doing pretty well there right now. And recently, we've said, you know what, there's this need, this unsolved, unsatisfied need to create one place where people can come, get all their addresses and address book information, contact information together, and no one's doing that.
What's your current status with Facebook? Obviously in the past you've had somewhat of a strange relationship, especially with Scoblegate, right? But so where are you now? They've opened up their API and to other select users, but not so far to Plaxo. So how are you trying to build that relationship and trying to open up that data?
We're talking to Facebook on a couple different levels. I'll talk about one and then I'll let John talk about the other. We're talking to them with respect to all of Comcast. So Plaxo is part of Comcast, and we're working with Comcast, talking to Facebook about how we can open up that data and make it available to all the different Comcast properties, whether it's Fandango, Daily Candy, or Comcast itself. And so we're doing that on kind of the BD front, and then John can talk about kind of BD 2.0.
Yeah, so I mean, we're big believers in openness and interoperability, and Facebook has really been evolving so much in the last few years, and I think that incident you referred to as Scoblegate happened at a point in time where we weren't collectively ready to understand the implications of users owning their data, having access to that data through open APIs. But now clearly there's this march away from walled gardens toward openness and interoperability. We have great relationships with the folks at Facebook. And in a lot of ways, this is as much a technical problem as it is any other. How can we get OpenID and OAuth and portable contacts, three of the most important building blocks, to work together well, to be easy to implement, and be secure enough to meet the needs of everyone from Facebook to Microsoft to Google and Yahoo.
Like you said, the trend is moving towards a more open internet, whether that's Facebook and beyond. What else needs to happen, though, in order for your platform to get greater recognition and greater usability?
I mean, to be clear, at this stage, we've got something on the order of 20 million members in the Plaxo network, and through our efforts, for example, working together with Comcast, the total number of address books that we host is around 50 million. So we're already operating at a fairly significant scale.
And is 50 million a large increase from, say, last year? Can you give us some idea of how you've grown?
Well, I think that there was this enormous increase that came through working with Comcast. In fact, before we were acquired by Comcast, they were our biggest customer. So But there's some really interesting things that an address book network can do once at scale that aren't viable strategic options if someone were to just start out today and say, I'm going to go try and build an interesting smart address book service. There's a chicken and egg problem. Until it gets to scale, why do I want to participate? Why do I want to put in my information? Why do I want to maintain my profile?
The key to Plaxo's success is also about rebranding, right? Because in the past, several years ago, there was a lot of talk about how Plaxo was too tied to essentially spamming. So how are you trying to change that?
What was referred to then as spamming is effectively the growth engine for the properties that we know and love today of the social web. It was enabling a member to invite a non-member.
The perception of spam still exists in some people's mind, and it's something that I'm really focused on when we think about what the brand is. There's a couple things that we've gone through in terms of the history. One is spam, the perception of spam, and as John said, everyone's doing it and it's not really spam, but you have that perception in people's minds. Number two is, oh, Plaxo's a social network, isn't it? Or, oh, Plaxo's a business network, isn't it? No. We're not spam, we're not a social network, we're not a business network. We are really focused on creating the best, smart, socially aware, and pervasive address book.